Hello everyone, welcome back to another recap video. So today is day 3 of the Dublin Easter I Am Norm event, and I would like to share my games from today. So I was playing in this very board this morning against Andrei Ivanov, and by the way, we were at the playing hall, and I started off with pawn to d4. He went knight f6, I went knight f3, e6, I went bishop g5. So I never played this before. I thought to give it a try today. This is called the Torah attack, where it's kind of like a sister opening of London system, but it has different ideas in mind. And Andrei played d5. I went knight d2, bishop e7. So everything was normal here going till now. Castles, bishop d3, and c5. This move made this is a very natural move. However, probably the timing was wrong, or the build-up to play this move was maybe not right. I haven't checked an engine. I just wanted to give my raw thoughts about this position. I felt that generally in these d4 openings, if white is able to capture the pawn and it forces black to capture with the bishop, this is a gain of tempo for white. So this is advantageous. Generally, c5 is either prepared by b6 and then c5, so that after d takes c5, black can recapture with the pawn. Also, another way of doing it is knight d7. Black plays knight d7, so that after c5, now this is not a gain of tempo, because after knight takes c5, black himself is gaining tempo by attacking this bishop, and for white it is really necessary to keep this bishop, so therefore I have to move back. Anyways, so that's why I felt this was maybe not the right timing, and I went for d takes c5. It was an important decision in the game, because I could just play c3 here, which is natural and probably transposes to the mainline theory. So after d takes c5, my opponent played bishop takes c5, and I went for castling. He went for knight c6, and this was again another interesting moment. White has active pieces, a good kind of arrangement of pieces, the coordination as well, but now it's time to which pawn break do you choose. I have this pawn break, I have this pawn break. I could probably prepare this pawn break with c3 and then e4. Well, I chose something else. I went for c4 and aiming for a symmetrical structure, which is basically like when these both are gone. I mean, I'm just illustrating here, where we have exact pawn structure. However, I have one major advantage, that this bishop is out of the pawn chain and this bishop here for black is inside. With this inside, I thought maybe going into a symmetrical position was better for me. So therefore I went c4, putting pressure on this d5 pawn. He went bishop e7. I played a3. This is a nice useful move, kind of preventing any tricks with knight b4. And here I think this was maybe the first slight inaccuracy by Andrei. I think he should have just went with e5, opening up the bishop's diagonal. I think this would have been an interesting position. I think while after the game we were talking here, and he said he was worried about bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, pawn takes d5, queen takes d5, and bishop c4. I kind of agree too. I mean, I think after, let's say, queen d8, maybe knight e4 or queen c2, white has good pieces. That's the point of this whole system. He has good pieces, but structure-wise, it's nothing special. It's very symmetrical, kind of drawish as well. So I think this would have been the best choice for him. Instead, what he did was he went for oopsie daisy. So in this position, instead of e5, he went for takes on c4. I went knight takes c4. Now, again, yeah, this is the symmetry I was talking about. This is a symmetrical pawn structure, and I have better pieces if you compare them to his. He went knight d5. Again, this bishop is very important, because you can see there's a hole on the d6 square. After bishop takes, queen takes, suddenly I feel black's position becomes very fragile, and we'll see how. So after queen takes, queen c2 and h6, I was thinking maybe g6 was a better idea, because h6, makes this diagonal even more sharper. And as we will see how I utilize this. After h6, I went for b4, planning to play b5, and here again it was another important moment for black. I think black shouldn't have been worried about b5, but he was, and he played a6. Now the problem with this is that the b6 square is now weak. And how did I encash it? Currently this knight on d5 is protecting it, so I have to find a way if I can destroy the defender. So I went bishop h7 check, king h8, and bishop e4. This might be a weird maneuver, but the point is that having a king on h8 can lead to some long-term problems in the endgame, especially when this f7 pawn will be hanging. And pushing the king farther from the center is always beneficial for the opposing side, for in case that's me. So after bishop e4, I'm threatening to destroy the defender of the b6 square. The bishop takes d5, e takes, and then knight b6. It's a fork. So after bishop e4, he played queen c7. And here I should say that I was about to play maybe an inaccuracy. I was thinking to play rook a c1, thinking that I have knight a5 in the air now, but knight e7, and probably black is okay here. Though I simply went for bishop takes, e takes. Now I created an isolated pawn, and this is beneficial, especially since I have only two minor pieces left. If I'm able to trade off those, it's easier to convert this. So I went knight a5, pinning. Now there's a pin, and generally when the side with the isoloni should kind of keep the minor pieces, but in this case there's no way. Bishop d7, rook a c1, queen b6, knight takes c6, bishop takes, and after a few maneuvers, so queen c5, I brought my pieces here, rook d1, queen f6, queen d4, queen e6, rook c5, rook e8, went all the way to a1 so that I can bring my knight here. But here I think Andre played this move, which was a mistake, because after knight e5, I'm forking his queen and bishop. And after knight e5, he went for a desperado with rook takes e5. It's kind of understandable. He was low on time as well, and this promised some sort of complications, but it wasn't that complicated. So after queen g3, he took, takes, check, king takes, keep these here, pawn takes. And now it's important when you're winning in such technical endgames, it's important to have a clear-cut plan. Otherwise, you can't really calculate it out. So my thinking was, all right, I'm gonna bring this king over here, sack the bishop, sack the rook for the bishop, and have a winning rook endgame, and that's exactly what happened. But first I tried to understand what was his idea. So probably he's going to give a check, put some pressure here, so why not I'll just protect things nicely. And it's an interesting thing here. See, black has a light squared bishop, so therefore it's in white's best interest to have all the pieces on the opposite color, so this bishop is useless, and that's what happened. So rook f8 check, king e3, rook f1, I started marching, rook king d4, rook f4 check, king e5, check, check, here, check, here, rook f6, and now you see, here comes the move, rook takes c6, I sacrificed my rook, I kind of gave the exchange back, rook c3, rook a2, I think it was probably rook e3, here, king g8, b5, and then soon the pawn promoted, and I won the game. So this was a nice win. I think I was happy with how I played the later part of the middle game, especially. Sometimes if you don't be careful in the isoloni, you might end up having a position where you're better, but you're not able to convert it. So I think the conversion stage was fine too, with the rook endgame, with the two rooks versus bishop and rook. Yeah, that was my morning round win, and now coming to our evening game. Welcome to round 5, the evening round for today. So I was paired against international master Angus Dunnington from Scotland, and we played in this very board. So let's get started. So he went with d4. For this game I decided to play my favorite Dutch opening, d4 f1, and here he took I think around 5 minutes and played d5. And I'll tell you, I have played over 100 games in Dutch and I never seen this move. So this was quite a surprise. So I went knight f6, c4. This what surprised me even more, because I thought the point of this whole system was to immediately play bishop g5. And now why this is an important move? Because I can't play g6, because after bishop takes f6, the pawns are getting doubled and it's not nice. So I have to be a bit more inventive and play knight e4. And I wasn't sure what's the theory, though afterwards in later, I think Angus, we were talking about this line briefly, and I think there's two options, bishop f4 or bishop h4. Both I thought I could meet with c6, maybe get my queen to a5 or b6 with some interesting play. Though we went kind of into a more traditional ground with c4, g6, knight c3, everything normal so far, bishop g7, g3, I castled, bishop g2, and here I took some time. It's a weird position. I mean, generally in Dutch openings you want to e5, but I wasn't sure. After takes, the queens are getting traded. Bishop f4 might be annoying, knight b5 might be annoying, so therefore I didn't really want to go there. So so this was the position. So since e5 is not working due to en passant and then queen trade, I first played d6 so I can bolster the d file, and now I'm preparing e5 at some point. And here comes the point of Angus. He delayed the development of the g1 knight specifically to play this knight h3 move. This is a very common move in these systems. White tries to eye towards this weak e6 square, and now the problem is, so what I went for c6. So now that I'm preparing e5, because if I go e5 directly, if I take here, b7 hangs. So I went with c6, knight f4, and here I think this is what Angus didn't expect, though this is a very natural move. I knew this idea is to play e5. And now it seems like white just won a pawn, and there isn't like a simple way to, I mean, there are many ways to recapture it, but the important thing here in this opening is that this light square is very important. And if I were to play something like queen e7 and then take, white would be really happy to just take this and have a bishop here. So there's another way, which is the knight tour, knight a6. With this move, black intends to push the knight towards back into the game, knight c5 or knight c7, and then take on e6, and that's what happened in the game. So knight a6, he castled, and here I took some time. I was thinking of knight c5, which is more natural. However, that could allow b4, and there's no easy way to do any discoveries here, even though the c3 and a1 are on pre, kind of shaky. So after knight takes e6, I think white can continue the kind of pressure and play b5, and this doesn't look right. So therefore I went for a more like a calmer route with knight c7. Now the problem is, after b4 I have knight e4, and now this whole pin is working wonders. So that's not possible. So he went rook b1, so it removes from the diagonal. I went knight takes e6, b4, and here I started to think, because generally black has a very solid position, but white is able to gain some sort of initiative on the queen side by attacking this c6 pawn with b5. So therefore I thought for a while, and I thought hang on, how do I protect this pawn, or overprotect, or superfluous? Either is it with bishop d7, but d6 pawn hangs. So maybe I could play queen c7 and then this. I was thinking about that, but I went for a more active approach. Knight g4, attacking the c3 knight, knight a4. I was quite happy to see the knight on the rim. As they say, the knight on the rim is dim. I brought back my knight, so I overprotect the pawn on c6. I expected him to play b5 and queen c7. So I'm putting all my energies to get this pawn as safe as possible, because this pawn, believe me or not, is the cornerstone for black's position. If this pawn is gone, this d5 square is going to be a treat for white. So here Angus played b takes c6. I thought this was premature. I think probably any other move than this that maintains the tension would have been more interesting. However, after taking, he played c5. I think he mentioned that he was calculating something like knight takes c5 or d takes c5, but he completely missed this simple move, pawn to d5. Now it looks like black's dark squares are a bit weak, because you see all of my pawns are on the light squares, which means the opposite colors squares are weak. But there's an important point. This bishop is trapped. And you know, we call it as a Catalan bishop. And when a Catalan bishop is faced with such a rock solid pawn center, it doesn't feel great for white. And that's what happened. So suddenly, you know, the tension I was mentioning about the c6 pawn, it's gone, and I'm quite safe here. Bishop b2. I found an opportunity that I could encash this diagonal. This was a very juicy diagonal for me. So first things first, if I have to move this, I need to protect my knight, which would be hanging. So I went rook e8. This was an inactive piece, so I thought I might as well keep it here. Eye towards e2 pawn. Knight takes e6, and I played rook takes e6. So rook e8 definitely made a lot of sense here. Rook e1, so Angus was trying to make precautionary measures to keep this pawn safe and secured. I went bishop a6, bishop f1, and at this point I realized that maybe my opponent is thinking to take here. Since this is a kind of a close position, the knight holds much more value. Therefore, I went, you know, look, let's trade I'll trade my good bishop for your bad one, but I'll keep my knight, which proved useful in the game. So he went bishop takes g7. I played queen takes g7 and h3. I went knight f6. So now the whole game is kind of steering towards a very positional game now, and I'm trying to attack this c5 pawn. White brought back his knight to the center. I found a way to kind of have a discovery attack. Rook c1. The pawn is not exactly hanging, because I think there's some tactics with knight takes d5. My rook could be hanging. If I capture, obviously this c5 knight is also hanging. So what I did was I played bishop c4 so I could secure the c file, and he went with e3, knight takes, and here. So white just sacrificed a pawn, but these pawns aren't that strong too. It's a double pawn, and my king's position is weak too. So there are some factors where white could say that probably there are some chances to hold. And Angus immediately played queen d4. I didn't expect this. Now we're from a middle game, we're now into an end game, and it was important to trade the queens. And now I was very careful here that if I play rook takes e1, which seems natural because now the knight is stacked, if I move back, the rook hangs. So if I capture here, and now the rook is on the open file, and this could be dangerous or gives more counterplay opportunities for white. I could go maybe knight d7 and then rook e6. This isn't looking good for me. So thankfully I had this tactic, or I should say a way to kind of get my my undeveloped piece into the game. And now with rook e8, he cannot capture on c5 because rook takes e1. So therefore he has to act. So after rook takes e6, I carefully played knight takes e6. And now d5, I went knight d4. Because I think if I take here now, I'm in huge trouble. There's a fork here, the c4 pawn is hanging, and I can't play rook c8 because there's a knight e7 fork. So what I did was I went knight d4, he took, and I calmly played rook c8 so that I could recapture here. He went king g2, rook takes c6, knight d5, king f7, and black is a pawn up, and he has a very stable pawn. I think white, if he tries to chase the pawn, it just keeps going further. And here Angus resigned. Probably it was slightly premature, but I think it was a long game, and Angus was in time trouble throughout the game. So probably this was, this was kind of it. And that's how I won my second game for today. And that pretty much wraps up my games. And overall, tournament wise, currently me and Jacob Flynn are co-leading the tournament with 4.5 out of 5, and I think there are a few others behind us. And coming to the open tournament, the Grandmaster from Norway is currently on 100%. There are some really interesting games, and I recommend everyone to check out on the Lee Chess and if you want to find if you want to follow the games, go to icu.ie, go to the Dublin International Chess Festival events page, calendar pages, and you will see a Lee Chess link to follow the games. That's pretty much it. It was great to analyze on the actual board which I just played. I hope you enjoyed it too, as much as I did analyzing here. All right, see you tomorrow, guys. Bye bye. All right, coming to the norm chances and the standings for the IM norm event. So currently 5 rounds have finished. It's the halfway mark. So I have a paper with me with the standings and the current norm chances, and this is not an official one. I would suggest if anyone wants to clarify or check, please do ask the chief arbiter. But this is my calculations. So currently me and Jacob are leading with 4.5 out of 5, which means out of the remaining 4 games, Jacob only needs 2.5 points out of 4 to score an IM norm. And in second place, Trisha, she's with 3.5 out of 5. And for a WGM norm, she needs to score 3 out of 4. And for an IM norm, she needs to score 3.5 out of 4. In third place, Adam Collins. Adam is currently on third place and with 3 out of 5, and he needs to win all of these games to score an IM norm. So you can see that for Trisha and Adam, it's 3.5 out of 4 and 4 out of 4, which is difficult, but I think hopefully they have some chances even till the end. We'll see how it materializes, or we'll see how things go. So it's the final half of the tournament. Will heat up, and more action coming tomorrow. See you.